So thanks, James, for your presentation. So my first question is, can you share a brief overview of the session, highlighting your key points and messages?
Absolutely. So we just presented a case study essentially of a solution that we at Attensi partnered to create for Novartis, and essentially it's around providing, I guess, the know-how, the belief, and actually being able to practice applying medical omnichannel customer centricity skills within their day jobs. And I think it's really interesting in terms of the sort of starting point is, as with lots of organisations in pharma, pandemic kind of drove what we're going to do. We did lots of kind of training around sort of theory and things like that, but Novartis was still left with this problem, is that people, their teams, still couldn't quite make the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. Although some of them were recording, think something as basic as channel preferences, not many of them were, and not many of them were consistently. And importantly also, they weren't really seeing the integrated approach that's required to be effective with this kind of model and be truly customer-centric and put them at the centre of everything that we do. So we just went through, I guess, the challenges. We spoke a little bit around the sort of the behavioural theory that sits behind the solution that we generated, and we looked at sort of the solution itself. Context that really is, like I say, putting the learner into a piece of their role, putting them into a realistic situation where they have competing priorities. Because at the end of the day, omnichannel is important, but it's not the only piece of conversation that's going to happen within an interaction with a customer. So it's important to make it as realistic as possible. And I think the sort of collaboration between the two organisations was a really good job to make something that really resonated well with the learners.
Thank you. And my second question is, as a respected professional in life science industry, do you have any advice or encouragement to share with your fellow trainers in this field?
Yeah, absolutely. So we at Attensi, we make simulations. I don't want to call it e-learning because that would sort of undersell it. Essentially it's around kind of creating engagement. So we are sort of, I guess, the online space. However, in my opinion, what works the best in terms of how to deliver sort of these kind of trainings is when it's the more blended approaches that you have with it. So the best examples I've seen of our solutions being used is where they are integrated within a blended program. So for example, you could play our simulation coming into a training program, and the great thing with that is you can bring everybody up to the same level and therefore get the very most out of the training program, because I know lots of times you give people pre-reads and things like that, lots of people haven't done it, and whereas they do this, and that you can therefore get more out of those sessions. We can then therefore wrap that. They can obviously have the fantastic face-to-face training, which can never be replaced ultimately. We can then wrap that with something that follows. So I think my advice really is that there's lots of digital media out there. There's lots of digital technologies that can sort of support learning. But for me, the blended approaches is always going to be the best thing to do. And like I say, the best situations that we see is where we work closely with learning colleagues like yourselves to really make sure that that everything's engaged with and everybody really gains in terms of their skills, knowledge and behaviours.